Welcome to the final module in the note-taker training. This module deals with note-taking tips for specific disciplines and how to handle disruptions. Different classes require different kinds of notes. Sometimes you will be note-taking in classes in a field you may not be familiar with. Use these strategies to help you produce adequate notes for those classes. For art and design classes, avoid 1 or 2 word bullet points. It is best if you can write out full sentences with a lot of detail. Make sure to highlight the connection between any concept the instructor might be covering and examples they provide. Theory is often paired with an artwork to explain a concept. An example sentence that the instructor may do is, "The brushstrokes in X represent Y because." Art classes often show slides of artworks. Make sure to write down the information of the artwork, including the artist's name, the date of the work, the title of the work, the medium, and the movement. Class discussion can take up a lot of time during art and design classes. Do not skip this material in your notes. Observe and note how others are talking about the course material. Make sure to write down questions that others in class share. Try and write your notes as straightforward as possible without losing detail. Look for comparisons in class. You can search for things to include in the notes that help make information more relatable. For example, this artwork reminds me of a pop song because of X. Some disciplines have classes with a lot of time devoted to student discussion. In these classes, remember that the content in the discussion is still important information that needs to be captured. Ideas and comments from other students can help the student you are writing notes for generate ideas for assignments and papers. Make sure you capture initial thoughts the professor shares about the reading or topic, and then write down any discussion questions used. Focus on main ideas from the instructor and peers. Peers often have good ideas too. And lastly, make sure to write down any page numbers or quotes that are mentioned in the discussion by the professor or other students. Usually in math, science, and engineering classes, you will handwrite notes, that way you can easily capture symbols that the professor uses. Because of this, consistent notation is crucial. Some professors do use a notation that is different from the book or other classes you may be familiar with. Make sure to only use the notation that the professor gives in class. One thing that can be helpful is making a key for the notation. At the top of your page of notes, you can write a key for what the symbols and notation means. For example, you can write a plus sign and then say that this is a plus sign written out. If a term or symbol is used frequently, define it clearly at the top of your notes. Names of theorems and processes are important to write down correctly. Instructors often refer to theorems, law, and processes by name on exams, so it's important to have those names exactly correct in your notes. Make sure to leave space around equations. Instructors usually include information about what equations are frequently used throughout the lecture. By leaving space, you're able to add in these details later. Make sure to translate equations into layman's terms to solidify your understanding. Try to include a sentence or two that explains what is going on in the equation. And always write down example problems that are worked out as a class. You do not need musical experience to take notes for music theory or other intro music classes, because these classes assume no outside knowledge coming in from students in the class. They are built from the ground up. It obviously helps if you do have musical experience, but avoid interjecting notes from your own experience. Write everything verbatim from the lecture, because the professor who teaches music theory, Professor Buckfitch, uses specific terminology and teaching style that the students need to learn. You will take notes by hand for these classes. Try to bring a straight edge triangle ruler or regular ruler if you have one to assist in drawing clefts, note heads, and beams. Classroom disruptions are a reality of in-person instruction, and they can make taking notes difficult. Here are some common disruptions and how to work around them. The instructor wanders around the class and you can't hear everything they say. If this happens, clearly indicate where the missing information is in your notes and include a note about why it is missing. If this becomes a problem, talk to the instructor after class to see if they can tell you the information that should be in that spot. You could also check with a friend in the class to see if they heard what the instructor said. If it happens a lot, let your supervisor know and they can help you connect with the instructor. The instructor changes the notation that they had been using previously in the class. Make a clear note of the notation change. Also include a note at the top of the page as a reminder of the change. Ask the professor for clarification on the change to ensure that it isn't a mistake. The instructor's handwriting is difficult to decipher. Try using context clues to determine what they are trying to write. It can also help to focus more on what they're saying in order to get more details about what they're writing. The instructor moves very quickly through the material and it is difficult for you to keep up. If you're doing handwritten notes in a class that might be better suited to typed notes, you could switch to typing notes in order to capture more information. You could also try using abbreviations or shorthand to write your notes. If you choose to use abbreviations, make sure that you provide a key at the beginning of the notes, that way the student can know what your abbreviations mean, or rewrite your notes without the abbreviations. What if other students are causing distractions? Empower yourself to focus by changing where you're seated to avoid the people who are distracting you. It can help to sit closer to the front or off to the side. You experience a technical difficulty with your laptop. Clearly indicate in your notes where the gap in information might be, and then connect with the instructor or classmate after class to get the information you may have missed.